Hi guys, it is Mandy from Mandyleeplays, and in today's video, we are going to be debunking some of the worst JRPG takes that I have ever seen. JRPGs in particular have been scrutinized since the genre started, at least in the West. So it's not a new thing for JRPGs, but we have been seeing new people now are interested in the genre, but with all that good stuff, there's gonna be the people who bash it as always. So I wanted to make this video to squash some of the misconceptions. So before we get into all the squashing of the beef, please hit that like button if you end up liking the conversation. Also, consider subscribing if you're not yet subscribed. I do JRPG content, so if you're into that, welcome. And also hit that hype button if you want to. So without further ado, let's get into the video. First misconception, and this is the one I've seen so many times, and that is, it's too anime for me. Whew, there's a lot to unpack with this one. So this misconception is basically assuming that just because a lot of JRPGs have samey art style that kind of look like anime, that it's just anime but video games, characterized by big eyes, squeaky voices, and exaggerated emotions. But this critique falls flat because it's kind of like saying every hyper-realistic game is its own genre, when it's not. And while yes, a lot of JRPGs look like animes and they tend to use it a lot, I wouldn't say that the games themselves are anime. And for this point, you really got to think to yourself, what is anime? Is it the story that's anime? Is it the graphics that are anime? Is it both? Is the gameplay anime? The term anime is very subjective, is all I'm trying to say. And while some franchises embrace the cel-shaded look that's commonly used in anime, countless others reject it entirely, or maybe want to buck the trend and do their own thing. Off the top of my head, I could think of Yakuza and Nier Automata. With Yakuza, it has a more realistic, gritty, real-world kind of aesthetic, but it is a JRPG. The same with Nier Automata. While the characters look straight out of an anime, the story, tone, and even the environment are not really classified as anime looking. Ultimately, dismissing a game because it looks anime is a very limiting perspective. The visual language of JRPG is on a spectrum, not a singular style. So even though a lot of them do have the anime style, doesn't mean that they're anime. That's just the art of the game. So can we buck this trend about saying that JRPGs are just anime? No, they're not. Alrighty, so we're going to parallel the whole aesthetic of a game with the narrative for this misconception, and that is, the stories are too shallow. Excuse me, what? This common criticism is basically that the stories are very simplistic, very power of friendship vibes, featuring black and white morality, and lacks the nuance and depths that we've seen from Western RPGs or any other games. Alrighty, another big one that we have to unpack. As a person who plays video games for their story, like, story to me is better than gameplay at times. I have a lot of thoughts. So to be fair, there are JRPGs that fall into this trap of the stereotypical story vibes, but there's a lot that don't. You just gotta choose the right game. Off the top of my head, again, Nier Automata, any Octopath Traveler game, the Trail series, the Final Fantasy series, well, it depends. And I'm gonna put more games right here because it's hard to think of stuff off the top of my head sometimes. But trust you me guys, there are so many good stories in the JRPG genre. Now, I'm gonna use Nier Automata as a good example of this case. So if you guys don't know, Nier Automata is a game where it throws a lot of philosophical weight into it and has a lot of deep themes and meanings. Like, this game will make you feel depressed at times. It's so good.
Everything that lives is designed to end. We are perpetually trapped in a never-ending spiral of life and death. Is this a curse? Or some kind of punishment? I often think about the god who blessed us with this cryptic puzzle, and wonder if we'll ever have the chance to kill him.
And all of this is disguised in this traditional action RPG, but if you play the game for more than 10 minutes, you'll soon realize it has a story to tell, and a very unique one at that. This is why Nier Automata is one of my favorite games of all time. As a story lover in JRPGs, it just hits all those boxes. But again, Nier Automata is not the first game to do that. A lot of other games tackle their stories in a more deepful way. I just finished Octopath Traveler 0, and my god, god, the story is amazing. Like, it's really, really good with twists and turns and stakes. It's so epic. But I'm not saying all the games don't have common tropes. Most of them still do, like the shonen screaming, the power of friendship, but that doesn't mean the story is bad. And a lot of JRPGs on surface level look the same, but when you play it and dig a little deeper, there's a lot going on. So there are good stories in JRPGs, you just gotta find them and you just gotta pick the good games. If you want to know any good games, I have a lot of videos on that. Alrighty, so we talked a bit about story, but what about gameplay? Well, I got you covered with this next misconception, and that is there's too much grinding. Now, in the past, JRPGs had a very notorious rap for the grind, stemming from the 18-bit to 16-bit era games, where developers intentionally spiked the difficulty to pad out the game's length. In people's mind though, they kind of see the grind as going around in a circle and battling random enemies until you get to a certain level. When in reality, many games nowadays actually have taken measures to make JRPGs less of a slog. And there are some games that are anti-grind, where you level up naturally, and if you do all the content, you should be good, and grinding is like an afterthought if you want to. Although there are games, especially remakes and remasters of old games, that do require you to grind, but to offense this, they often put something to make the grind more easier when it comes to classic games. And there's also speeding up the animations, all that good stuff to make the grind less grindy. I'm now playing Tales of Exilia, and the remaster has the option where you could get double XP if you wanted to, so you don't really have to grind that much. But more newer JRPGs don't rely on the grind too much. I mean, if the game is done well. Here are some good JRPGs that don't require a grind, or if they do, it's very minimal. And I know this is just a me thing, but I find grinding to be kind of relaxing. Put on a nice podcast, video, or listen to some music and just grind. And there's the also helpful auto battles. Auto battles are legit the best. I love it. And a lot of JRPGs nowadays have an auto battle mechanic, although not all of them. So the whole misconceptions of you have to grind for hours on end is mostly a relic of the past. Modern JRPG games kind of limit the grinding or make some good quality of life features to make the grinding faster. Alrighty, now on to another misconception that I've seen a lot lately, and it's kind of true, but it's kind of not. And that is JRPGs are too long. Now this is usually a big deterrent of a lot of people picking up a game because, you know, it's kind of intimidating when you see that a game might take more than 100 hours. And I understand that. But to be fair, some games are not really helping beat these allegations because holy camole, some of them could be long. Of course though, people have different thoughts. But what if I told you not all of JRPGs are like this? The 100+ hours JRPGs are kind of the rare ones. Most JRPGs fall into the 50 to 60 hours, maybe less if you do it faster. So this whole misconceptions of every JRPG is like a long slog is not true. And most of the greatest JRPGs are the shorter ones. And the ones that are notoriously long, like Persona, Octopath Traveler games, are long for a reason. They're not just padded out, it's just the story is so epic. Personally, I don't mind long games. I feel like if the game is really good, you won't even notice how long it is. So I do understand why people want shorter games. I do want to also say try longer JRPGs. They will last you the longest. You don't have to play it in one get-go, and the stories are usually worth it. You just gotta know which games you're willing to put that many hours in. And I really hate the bad rap that longer games are getting nowadays. I know when I post anything about Octopath Traveler 0, a lot of people say, I don't really want to pick it up because it's long. And to that I say, yes, it's long, but it's worth it. And even with the longer games, you don't have to rush your game. So yeah, I'm not opposed to long games, nor short games, nor middle games. I love any type of JRPG, and the really long ones are the exceptions, not the rules. And finally, we've come to the final misconception, and that has to be the J in JRPG. So a lot of people think that JRPGs are just Japan RPGs, which on its name, yeah, that's why they're called JRPGs. But JRPGs are different in a lot of different ways that are not just because they were made in Japan. To me and to a lot of people, JRPGs are mostly focused on character-driven storytelling, player management, and progressive-based systems. This distinction explains why Dark Souls and Elden Ring are rarely called JRPGs, even though they were made in Japan. It's hard to explain, but it mostly boils down to the vibes of the game. Conversely, games like Sea of Stars were made in Canada, but it has a very heavy JRPG vibe to it. So it's not just because the games are made in Japan, it's obviously deeper than that, where the tones, the themes, the characters have to fit a certain role to make it feel like a JRPG. This is not really a misconception, but more of my personal opinion on it. So yeah. So that's it for the video. If you enjoyed, please hit that like button. Would appreciate it. Please tell me in the comments down below any misconceptions you have about JRPGs, or did my discussion help you think about it in a different way? I would love to hear it. Please consider subscribing if you're not yet subscribed. Would appreciate that. Hope you guys have a beautiful, wonderful rest of the day, and as always, play a good game. Peace.